Hey guys, welcome to the fourth episode of Talkback On, where we go behind the glass with our host, Jay Chong, godfather of K-pop and
Man,
award-winning
this is
producer and composer. Kairos, award-winning producer, songwriter, and CEO of Decade Plus Music Publishing. I myself, KO, I'm an audio engineer who likes to browse on Vintage King's website just for fun. So let's go into circuit board. This week, we're going to be talking about whether it's better to EQ then compress or compress and then EQ. So, check this one out, guys.
What's up, guys, and welcome to Circuit Board. Now, today I get asked from time to time if I have a preference whether I like to EQ first then compress or compress then EQ. And to be honest with you guys, it really depends. So, I'm going to show you guys a couple ways and a couple instances where I would prefer compressing and then EQing or vice versa. So let's get right into it. So we're back to Twice's next page, and what I'm gonna do is actually play the verse section, just the instrumental, because I really want to focus on this bass first. The first thing that I probably might want to do is actually compress it first. And the reason being is because it's a little loose and it could be tightened up along with the drum groove. More importantly, I feel like that it could really be a very strong part of the instrumental along with that sampled vocal chop in the background. So what I have here is a LA2A from UAD. I love this compressor a lot, and this will kind of get the sound that I need in order for me to get it sounding tight. So what I really do love about this compressor that it's smooth, but it's really keeping the bass kind of up front and consistent as well too. So the next thing that I'm actually most likely gonna do is EQ. And as you can see right here, I'm actually now making corrections as well as compensating some of the frequencies which the compressor has affected. So I'm actually removing some 90 hertz, some 300, 370, 211, and I'm actually boosting up a little bit of the high mids here just to give it a little bit more of that picking sound. So let's hear it now. Now without it. So you can start hearing a difference where the bass is now a little tighter. It allowed it to really bring it up forward too. And especially with those EQ corrections post the compression, it allowed it to really kind of bring it out alive into the mix as well. Now let me show you an instance where I would actually rather EQ than compress. So here we have Sana from Twice. She's also singing on the verse section of this song, and you'll be able to hear her dry recording, and then we'll start making our judgment call from there. 혹시 네가 알면 좀 네 발걸음을 맞춰도 어쩜 둘이 걷는 것도 고와 안돼 심장 터질 것 같아. Now let's hear it in solo. 혹시 네가 알면 좀 네 발걸음을 맞춰도. So cool. It's been recorded well. However, I do hear some boominess and certain frequencies that can be taken out. And I do want to take note of that because it's better to remove some of these frequencies, especially before you compress, because otherwise you are compressing those frequencies and it starts becoming more of an added problem later on. So let's take all of those out and see what we can come up with. So I have here an EQ, and as you can see, I'm doing a lot of corrective EQ. This is where I'm actually subtracting a lot more frequencies than doing any kind of boost. I'm doing a high pass filter. I'm also taking out some low mids, some mid-range, as well as some higher mids and some high end as well. And this will allow me to really control the vocals when it goes into the compressor, which I'm using an RVox here. So just with those two combos, let's hear the vocals back in solo. 혹시 네가 알면 좀 네 발걸음을 맞춰도. Now without it. 혹시 네가 알면 좀 네 발걸음을 맞춰도. So you can hear the vocals are now definitely more upfront, but more importantly, it's taken out a lot of those little problems that we heard from the recording earlier. But here's what I like to do a lot, and this is where you can really get creative. You have this sound, but let's say you want to add more to it. Well, you're more than welcome to start adding EQ. I'm definitely going to use the FabFilter Pro Q. However, you're more than welcome to use any kind of EQ, especially to add color and stuff that just really makes it sound nice. So over here, now you can start seeing some crazy stuff going on. I have another high pass filter just to take out a little bit more of the boominess, but I'm also raising up a little bit of the low end to give her voice a little bit more girth. But I'm also still subtracting just to compensate what the compressor is doing. But I'm adding this big boost high shelf right at the end at 6.7K. So with all of that, let's put in all of our effects and play back in the mix. 혹시 네가 알면 좀 네 발걸음 맞춰보 어쩜 둘이 걷는 것도 고와 안돼 판판 심장 터질 것 같아. Cool. Now you can definitely hear a difference, but the most important thing is making the proper judgment, especially when you are making any kind of corrections, but also using a compressor as well too. It's all about being the person behind the tools rather than having these tools magically work things out for you. And definitely listen to your sources. I think that's the biggest thing. You want to listen to your sources, see if there's any problems that you can address before you start doing anything else. Obviously, there are so many templates as well as presets out there that can make your workflow faster. However, take the time to do this, because the more you can enhance your sources from the get-go, the better your mix will sound ultimately at the end. So I hope you guys enjoy this one. Until next time, see you guys.
And we're back. Now, just to start things off, is there a certain way that you guys like to process, especially with EQ first or compress first, or does it matter to you guys?
It's the ongoing question of the vocal chain.
Yeah.
I used to always compress first and then EQ, and then recently I saw a video. I think it was on Waves.com. They had something about it, and I was like, I need to like find out what the answer is. And the guy, what he said was actually very true. He said he puts an EQ first to sort of like shave off unwanted frequencies. Because if you don't do that, like or if you put the EQ before the compressor and you want to tweak it during mix, it actually affects the compressor, how the compressor behaves, right?
Mm-hmm.
So he uses one to sort of shave out like unwanted frequencies, and then he puts a compressor, and then he puts another EQ after that to sort of color and tweak during the mix. So that seemed to kind of make a lot of sense, and I tried it, and actually it works pretty well.
Nice.
Very nice. Yeah, I mean, I think definitely like to shape the sound, or at least to make sure that the EQ is in place. For me personally, I like to make sure that before it goes into the compressor, because the compressor too also adds character and color as well. So you, I think the best way to put it is you got to have your prep work, and then once it runs through the compressor, you can also add what's needed afterwards, or add what's lacking after it comes out of the compressor. But yeah, there's really no proper way to do it. It's just more of what works best, and what's going to eventually make the sound sound more fitting to the sound or to the music.
Yeah, I think you brought up a good point about prep work. It's not only just I think the frequency, you definitely want to take out unwanted frequency, but there are certain times where you'll have like little blips, or like sometimes exaggerated breaths where somebody's gasping for their last dying breath. Like all of that stuff has to be controlled and somewhat managed, not just only in EQ but just in editing as well, because those little stuff also affect on how the compressor works as well too. So I think that's a good point to bring up. Cool. So Kairos, would you like to start us off with the topic for today?
Sure. Well, I don't want to sound like a complainer, but something that I want to share with you guys. I'm just not a fan of this trophy culture today, right? It's like where you get anyone that participates, all get a trophy. Yeah, I
Mhm.
think it really defeats the purpose, or it really degrades the value of failure. Um, and the reason why I want to talk about failure is because I think there's this great importance in learning what failure does to success. And I wanted to kind of jump in on that subject and talk about it because I know so many of our peers and people that are coming up, in this industry face failure, and a lot of times, they're just not prepared for it, or not ready for it. So I think this will be a great opportunity to, talk about what we can do to, fight or just combat whatever comes our way, but at the same time understand what failure is, in the eyes of success, and what we can do to have it be a part of, our experience in success. So yeah, I just want to kind of bring that up and maybe, have a discussion about that. And yeah.
Wow. So any like personal experience where you dealt with people that like
Oh
didn't
yeah.
really understand that concept?
Many people don't know this, but I actually auditioned for JYP, um, as a songwriter, long time ago.
Mm.
This was a while back, but I think they did reach out to me at some point, but it never followed through, and I never got to um, have in-depth conversations about being a songwriter for them or whatnot. But like years later, I mean, now, I have different cuts with them too. And having that being part of the journey makes it, that much more enjoyable to look back to and say, wow, like that was, that was something that I'm so glad that's a part of my story. Because I think, as I mentioned before, if we all got trophies, then what kind of value does that have, And so
Yeah.
I think everyone has their story, and I want to encourage anyone that's out there that are experiencing failure to know that, that is part of their story. And as long as they don't stop, then it's an ongoing process, and failure is a part of that.
Yeah, failure, man. Yeah, I think that's the biggest learning experience for sure. For me, going back, I mean, my first cut was like it came pretty easy actually. Like the artist actually, we met through a mutual friend, and then decided like, hey, let's work together, and everything went really smooth, right? So at first, like, oh, I thought this is just how it is, like everything is kind of like gravy.
Yeah.
And then so like, and every demo I sent in, oh, people liked it, and we eventually got to work with everybody. And then I think my first real failure was, I think, when we actually put out our my group Solid's first album, and it completely tanked. Like it was just a flatliner. Like, it didn't get any traction whatsoever. And I think at the time we were just still kind of like little kids, kind of excited to just have a CD out, you know. And we thought that was sort of like a prize in itself, right? But like, yeah, that was, but like going to broadcast stations, and then just, all the kids just going to another artist, right? They'll come screaming, and they'll just pass us and go to the next artist, and things like that. It was very humbling, And so basically, we came back to America to sort of lick our wounds and kind of replan, right?
Yeah.
And also, it is a funny story. Like there's a group that I actually produced after Solid in 1998. This group called Voice, and it was the first album that I produced that wasn't Solid, and it was sort of a big deal. And that thing completely just flatlined, right? And I think that to me was the biggest humbling experience. And this is how it happened too. Like we had a song that was out before the album released, and it actually charted number 4 on Mnet. So we're like, oh my god, this is gonna be big, right? And then so our first order was like 15,000 records, and it sold out.
Yeah.
Right, so the record company, like the owner and everybody was celebrating. Oh my god, this is gonna be huge, right? So he's like, he decides to like double down on the whole thing. Like, you know what? I'm gonna put these guys on every TV show for like 2 weeks, right? so these guys go on like all the big programs for 2 weeks, and and there was people that were on the sidelines sort of warning us like, hey, don't put these guys on TV because they're not like TV ready, or they don't look like they should be on TV. Right? So these guys went on every big show for 2 weeks. The next order came in, it went from 15,000 to like 100. Completely stopped. And then that was it. Like it was just KO, like knocked out, like, right? So that was like, it was a huge blow. Like that was to me the biggest learning experience. Like,
Yeah.
you know, the whole saying like more is more. Like, you go on TV more, you got to be more successful. It wasn't true. And through that experience, I got to learn so much
Yeah.
about like just promotions and how to kind of cater to different artists,
Yeah.
right? So what applies to one artist doesn't apply to the next, and that to me was like kind of a eye opener.
Wow.
Yeah, that was 1998.
Yeah, I think even definitely like that there's that saying, or I know some people believe that right before something big happens, people go through these series of failures,
Yeah.
almost like I heard this great analogy where it's like a rocket ship trying to break through the atmosphere, and right before it does that, that's when gravity works its hardest, but
No.
do break through, then you get to reap the rewards and really experience the success. But
Mm.
understanding success, it's definitely, I think there's a way to understand failure, and in my experience, definitely like I've experienced series of failures, I think, before really understanding what success meant, and I value success. That I think if I was to have series of success and then try to have a career, I think that would be a setup for that's where it ends. Like I don't think there would
No.
be a next long term kind of a plan. A lot of times, people come in and go, I thought this is what it's supposed to be. It's not supposed to be anything, like I think a lot of times
Exactly.
like I'm supposed to, get money and I'm supposed to get rich and, make tons of money off of music. And no, it's not supposed to be that way. And I think that, people come with these wrong expectations. And so I just wanted to make sure people know that, what people see on our Instagrams or our social media, that's our work built by many failures and many trials and tribulations. It's a lot of challenging things that we have to overcome. And so, yeah, definitely. I know that just even, working in the camps, I know a lot of those writers have been writing for, not just months, but years, trying to get their first placement. And I can confidently say that, as long as they're focused on their destination, it's coming. As long as the map is clear enough that exactly where you're going, then you're going to be there. It's just a lot of times along the way, the map gets distorted. You kind of lose your purpose.
Mm. And also, I think when it comes to work, just in general, like so, I know a lot of songwriters like ask, like, should I work with this artist? I don't think this person is gonna be successful, or I don't think this is gonna like succeed, and this and that. So like I remember reading an article in Keyboard magazine like years ago.
Yeah.
It said like there was like a business music business guy talking, and he said something like, just say yes to everything and then deal with it later. Right? Because in our industry, you never know when those offers are gonna even come again, right? So just say yes to everything. And from my experience, I realized when you have failures, like people are so afraid to make mistakes or fail, right? What happens is when you fail, most people don't even know about it because it failed, right? It never got the time of day. So like most of the projects that I've done that failed, the general public doesn't even know about it because it never really even got to their ears. It disappeared before even that even happened, right? Right. But at least during the whole process, like I got to kind of like learn new things, or like even I know like, and they're all paying gigs, so they can, you know. But it's just like so many people are so afraid to like make those steps or choose what project to work on and what not to work on, right? So like I think it's important to have an open mind and try to be more kind of diverse with different artists and people you work with.
Yeah, absolutely. I think I love what you just said, because it's, we do too much thinking before and it's time to make a decision. And I think a lot of times we have to make those decisions, and really, like you said, deal with it. And that's where you learn your lessons, and that's where you grow.
Yeah.
And when people try to stay safe, I mean, this industry is definitely not a place where you can be safe.
Yeah.
There's too many hungry people out there, and there's too many people that are very talented. And so, if in timing is everything, and if you miss your opportunity, you're done.
Yeah. 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 There's just so many writers these days where like
Yeah.
if you're not pulling through, there's at least a dozen behind you
Yep.
that's ready to take take it on, right? So yeah, definitely.
You know, KO, he actually, I remember during that time there was, I did about around like 60 interviews, and he beat out probably amongst the 60 in that following week. And one of the things I noticed about KO is that he was always ready. I remember one day I came in and look over at my patch bay, and he labeled everything. He reorganized everything, and I'm looking over there. And I'm like, I never asked him to do that. That just kind of showed that he was always ready to improve things and make things better for everybody around him. And so it just showed that he was a team player. And I think a lot of times when people, like Jae-Hyung, you said, it's like, well, who do I work with? Who I think if you're starting to be picky and you're starting to have some sort of like standard of like how everything's going to be built around you, you have a very wrong notion of how to make it in this business alive. So
Yeah, I've been in several discussions lately, like with musicians and like students, and one of the main questions they ask is like, it was actually asked very cleverly. Somebody asked,
yeah.
like, how do you turn music into groceries, right? Like how do you make money to buy groceries with music, right? Right? There's no real standard like where if you work with one producer or one record company and you go to the next, it's a completely different layout, right? Like how they pay or how much they pay, everything varies company to company, artist to artist, right? So like when you start working, like for me personally, I did a lot of stuff for free. Like when I started, like I don't think I made any money like the first 2.5 years
Yeah.
of actually like working, getting signed to a company and doing it for real. I actually made like nothing the first 2.5 years, and I was okay with it as long as I was able to make music, right? And of course I could do that because I was in my 20s or late teens, right? I can't do that now with the whole family and all that, right? But so for you guys, like, did you guys just get started right away, start like working and getting compensated, or did you guys like kind
Well,
of?
so I actually I had the head position over in Chicago at a studio, and we did a lot of things. It was like multimedia stuff, and I got to engineer a lot of the stuff that was coming in and going out. Um, and at that time, I got paid salary. I had some benefits, and my wife, she right where she entered her 20s, she actually became a professor at a college.
Mhm.
So we both of us, we had everything pretty much set. It was all in place. But then part of us, we just knew that it was God's calling, that we had to go out west, and so
Mhm.
it was a difficult decision, because it would mean that we would have to start from zero. We would
Mhm.
have to start all the way from the beginning. And so we took that leap of faith, and we came out to LA. And I noticed from people is that out here it's kind of like I scratch your back, you scratch mine, at some point,
Mhm.
that kind of thing.
Mhm.
So we were very just focused on just building it from ourselves. We attended a lot of different events, and try to build networking, and it was tough. It was as KO mentioned, hard times were really hard. It was extremely hard. And then we start seeing things happen with client building. We would start building clients out here. and we put in like our savings. We went all in, without really having any guarantees. And that's why I think it's interesting when a lot of people ask, well, how do you know? Because you don't know, but it requires a lot of faith, and knowing that you have to be prepared when the timing does come. So you know
Mm-hmm.
we start working with publishers. I believe, probably a few years after we came out here. So yeah, like what you said too, like a few years of just nothing coming in, and we had a kid on the way, and I remember at one point, Jen and I, we were in the hospital because I got really sick. I think this is kind of personal, but I think my heart was like literally failing on me because of the amount of stress and just the challenges we were dealing with. And I remember sitting in the hospital, and I have this, baby on the way. But it's really about the commitment that we made, not just through our marriage, but just understanding that this is going to be a journey, and we continue to work hard through a lot of those difficult times. Yeah, it's just been, as I'm even just kind of like talking about it and reflecting back, it's quite amazing just
Wow.
different paths that we take to even just be here, right?
Well, it's crazy that you actually were doing that while you were married. That is nuts. Because that takes a lot of balls. I think our business is kind of like, it's like you got to go all in or not, or bust, right?
Mhm.
So like, I always thought like, man, any women who marry guys like us, they just have to have like just heart of steel, like to deal with all the ups and downs, right?
Absolutely.
Um, and for me, I had an early start. I started when I was like, I started producing music when I was like about 18.
Uh,
And then I got picked up by some local labels here in Long Beach, and I was working with some hip hop labels and doing all that stuff. And like I said, I got like connected to an artist out in Taiwan in the early '90s,
mm,
and I started working, and then after my stint in Korea, and I started working in Taiwan. My goal was to sort of, like in every market, there's like maybe like a handful of people that write every song in the market, right? And same goes for every market practically. And at that time, I wanted to be one of those guys,
mm,
and so immediately when I went to Taiwan with that artist was called LA Boys, and they were already at the top of their game in Taiwan. So like I got very lucky, and so when they connected me to labels and other artists, I got to meet them very easily and kind of got my just projects just going right away. And then so after like a few hit songs, then it's kind of like a well, right? Like you first it's very hard to dig that well, but once that water pumps out, then it's just like then it's just starting to rain, right? Like so like the work just keeps coming in.
yeah.
And so like luckily I was working in Taiwan where I don't know, like the thing about Taiwan music scene is that they don't change very much. Like Korea, like you're away for like a month, it's all new faces, like new people writing music and all this stuff. It's been the same people like the last almost 20 years.
Yeah.
So like I was very fortunate enough to go there like in the late 90s where it was sort of like the original members were sort of like forming,
Yeah.
right? And I happened to be there at the right place at the right time, and I got connected into that circle. So like, all the major labels are hitting us like maybe like five guys that was writing all these tracks. We're just getting hit up like every day to write songs, right? So and that's how we built up a lot of our credits back in the day. So and it's I don't know, to some degree that system is still in place, but then there's like that, like the whole writing camp thing now, where with a lot of newcomers are kind of getting a chance at writing songs, right? Like up until now, it was like kind of a tight knit circle
Yeah.
of people that wrote the music, and people like even the fans of the artists weren't really keen on new artists or new songwriters coming into that circle. It's almost like they just like to stick with the people they know, kind of thing.
Yeah.
And I was very fortunate to be part of that like tight circle for like over like a couple decades almost, right?
Yeah.
And in the meantime, I was going back to, and I had my roots in Korea as well, so I was going back and forth. But like, and for me, like the whole, I didn't have wife and kids, through that whole process, right? So like it was a little bit easier. I think when I started, I was still living with my parents, so I could afford to work for free and do that. So to any student graduating right now, or asking like how to get the career started, like I always tell them, like start as early as possible before you have all these other obligations and responsibilities, right? Right. Then eventually you're gonna have to get a day job, and that takes time away from your creativity, and it just gets harder and harder.
Yeah.
So it's best to start early and kind of get your grounding like right away.
I remember, I work with my company, and I mentioned I eventually became like the head position at my company, and we were able to put together a few projects, and we got connected with Dave, and and so this time, I actually got to stay at his house, and we had to work on different projects, and so to this day, he actually doesn't know that I was that kid that emailed him.
Are you serious?
Yeah, years
Let, let me guess. Was the email address davepensado@gmail.com? Back then they didn't have too many different addresses, right? So it could have just been.
Right. That would have been so. It was just a name and Gmail, but.
Yeah.
But yeah, I still remember getting out there, and I still remember what he said to me. He said, "Hey, I know that you have this head position out in Chicago, and you got some experience under you, but come out here with this mindset of I'm starting from nothing, and so that's kind of something that I kind of held onto my heart, and when I did come out here finally, and with my wife. We literally we just got married, and we self-leased for 3 months before we left Chicago. I still remember at the wedding, I was looking at everybody, and I got emotional because I knew that this was one of the last times I'll see probably the last time I'll ever see them, and leaving Chicago. So coming out here to LA, we're playing with the big dogs. We're playing with everyone, best of the best. So some kind of going back to what we were saying before, like when the opportunity does come, you have to be ready,
Yeah. You came to the right place. But I mean, I think a lot of the questions I get asked is that, like, oh, I've been in music schools for 4 years. I'm about to graduate. What's next? What can I do to get my career started? Right.
Yeah.
So like what would you guys say to that?
Oh, I would say just try to surround yourself with people that are always better than you. I remember I remember trying to get a really good snare sound, right? One of the best tips I got was you have to put yourself behind someone that is creating a really good snare in order to understand what a good snare sounds like.
Yeah.
Otherwise, you're just going to be in your head and just think that that's what's good, and you're going to learn it the hard way. So, for me, it's always been I try to always surround myself with people that are better than me, and again, like that can mean taking on an internship, working for free, going on to some mentorship that can really benefit you and help you. And sometimes it might not fall in line with, let's say, even the genre that you're interested in, but being a sponge, I think, is such a key thing. It really starts with your attitude. I remember going to a studio, and this is just me, but I kept an eye on everybody. I remember I studied just even how people held their cups, if they're left-handed or right-handed, if they like their cups dried, upside down, or upwards, if they preferred it on their right side or their left side while they're mixing. It's just all those details. I know that matters because it will translate over to what you do as a professional, and so that is something that I really pay attention to, and so I kind of I want to always, urge people to, even when they take an internship where they have to clean toilets, they got to do that with the mindset of, this is all part of being a professional, and it's going to help me if I can clean a toilet really well, I know I'm gonna do something, really well in just creating music.
Yeah, like if you get to clean toilet in your favorite studio, dude, that's gravy, bro. Like seriously,
Yes.
right? I don't think people, like, like when I see people that trivialize success,
Yeah.
like they look at other people's success and go, hey, yeah, I don't give a shit, or like I could do that, that kind of thing, right? That to me is like the biggest handicap for a lot of like young people starting out. It's like kind of like how you were. Like you have to be absolutely like amazed by this. Like when you see people that are ahead of you, like like I remember just like just looking at somebody who's just working over their shoulders and just completely soaking it in, and or like when I listen to an album, or like listen to my favorite producers, like how they arrange, and like what kind of sound they get, and just all that stuff, right? And just, and when you realize how difficult it is to really become that person, or to create something out of completely like just thin air, right?
Yeah.
To be a pioneer at something, and when you trivialize things like that, then it really hinders your own success, right? And to be honest, I think a lot of people do, like,
Yeah.
kind of trivialize, ah, you know, like or they got something really easy, they got successful very easily, and
Yeah.
they sort of trivialize the whole thing, like, oh yeah, Frank just called me, and I got this cut on this album, and you know, like, I'm making K-pop music now, like, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
So like I think, like you're saying, like really understanding and absorbing every little detail like a sponge,
Yeah.
you know. Like I was a self-taught musician, so like everything I learned from watching others, right?
Yeah.
So like, I was like a little sponge, ever since I was in sixth grade, I was just like listening to CDs and just trying to pick up things on my own and kind of learn, and
Yeah.
and that was sort of like that drive, man. Like, the the worst thing I did was, like back in high school, when I had a girlfriend, we would go on a date or something,
Yeah.
and I would completely like we somehow ended up in some kind of music place, and like I'm playing like the keyboard or something. I'm looking through stuff, and I realized, oh my god, she's just been standing there for like 2 hours. And that's how absorbed I was with all the stuff. Like with gear and just just music. And like like how do I get myself into this music business, right? It's something I thought even when I was like a little kid growing up.
Yeah.
And as soon as I got the opportunity, and so when I started working on with that artist from Taiwan, there's this very like OG kind of old school, like the big boss kind of a music producer,
Yeah.
and he was like, he kind of mentored me, and I used to watch it and just kind of soak in everything and just learn
Yeah.
as much as I could,
Wow.
yeah.
Yeah. I think that's so cool. Like, because I remember, so even guitar too, like, I was self-taught. Like I would listen to albums, and I would, I think, like, you know like at some point there was like guitartabs.com or something, right? Where you see, but I remember like just listening to Cliffs of Dover by Eric.
Eric Johnson.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I got it down. Like I could play the whole song at one point.
uh,
Wow.
uh,
Like, I was so proud of
uh.
myself, and but it's like, you can't just play Cliffs of Dover if you're just kind of like, oh yeah, I like music. You gotta be like, so like,
Yeah.
just, this is me. This is like everything that's who I am. And really commit to that. And yeah, so that, that definitely kind of brought back some memories too, because I was so obsessed on playing guitar too, because guitar was like my first instrument that I was in a band and all that stuff too. So I was like one Asian boy, in a band, and try to sing and play guitar. And uh,
Uh,
but yeah, it's like, looking back to it, it really starts with just how you perceive music, because a lot of times, a lot of people see music as like so many different things, and I'm just sometimes wonder, like, are you really like interested in music? Like, do you really want to do this?
Yeah, funny thing is, like, with a lot of like up and coming artists, like I listen to their music, and sometimes they, kind of want me to kind of like critique it, whatever. And
Yeah.
I listen to it, and I always go into their social media to see what they're doing, like,
Yeah.
all right, and uh, I notice, like artists, in many times, they're kind of introverted, or they're not very social and all this stuff. I get that part, right? But like I noticed a lot of people just don't do any social media or like any kind of self promotion, and they think it's kind of cringy, and they
Yeah.
just don't partake in it, right? And yeah, that kind of thing. I'm thinking like, man, if I was an artist starting out, like I would try to hit like every avenue and try to like take advantage of every opportunity. Everybody I meet, I would hit them up, just bother them like day after day, like until like I get their attention, like,
Yeah.
and I would drive hours to meet people, like even just for 5 minutes,
Yeah.
and like, well, one of the things I used to do is like, instead of waiting for somebody to call me to come out, I would just go out there on my own and go, hey, I just happen to be in your area, like, are you available, like for lunch or something,
Yeah.
right? And they're like, oh yeah, and then that's how we would meet.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Or like, and even in college, like there was a music business class in this local community college, and I just walked into the class and sat there all year long. I didn't sign up for the class. I just went there every day. I talked to the professor. I think it was like the midterms when he realized I wasn't registered in class, right? And he called me in and he's like, "Yo, you're not in the class, are you?" I go, "No." And he's like, "Well, you could sit in it," and and the guy like basically like asked so many questions, and just being thirsty for knowledge and trying to soak in everything. That's, I think, so important.
Yeah, one of the things I
Yeah.
ask interns, and KO knows this. I like sometimes if I come in the room and there's an intern, I ask, "Hey, so do you have any questions?" And they usually go, "No, no."
Yeah.
I go, "You know everything? You know everything here?"
Yeah.
No, no. Then I'm like, "Well, then ask. Like you should ask something.
Yeah.
If I'm sitting there, I would have so millions of questions. I would, give an arm for this type of time. So you should really
Yeah.
be thinking about questions then if you don't have any.
Yeah, it's just it's so weird when we're in the position of like, I guess, kind of like, the decision makers, and we have to call them and push them to do stuff,
Right.
right? And that happens a lot too. Like, hey, can you please go on your social media and post something?
Yeah.
Like, can you do this? Can you do that? And you're like, and they're like, well, I just don't do those kind of things. And then, okay, and then you go, well, you don't do those kind of things, but you want the benefit of doing that,
Exactly.
and,
Yeah.
and it doesn't exist,
Yeah.
right? So you have to, like, I guess for any artist or aspiring artist listening in, like, you really have to, it's not, if it's not for social media presence, it's to show people that you are really serious and you're very diligent and you will work overtime to
Yeah.
achieve your goals, right? And it shows by everything that you do,
Yeah.
whether it's like writing a lot of songs, if a guy is sending you the same song for 3 years, you're like, like, why am I even talking to you still? Right? It's just, and if some guy you just met has like 100 or, like songs, or beats that he has, like, yo, listen to this,
Yeah.
right? And you go, wow, this guy's serious, right?
Yeah.
So like, I think people are kind of looking for, okay, is this guy serious? Can this guy handle the stress and just the pressure of this business, right?
Yeah.
Da da da. And all that shows with how much you're prepared. Like, you know?
One thing that I've learned over the years is finding ways to help the person. I think we
Mhm.
touched on this last week or last time. Sorry. All of that stuff does really matter because at the end of the day, we're investing our time to really help build you as well too. So having somebody that wants to just be having a team player mindset definitely does help.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think it just in general too. Like, I think a lot of aspiring artists or people who want to get into the music industry as a producer or songwriter or whatever. Like, I think people have an ideal kind of in their heads of how it should be,
Right.
and it's based on like like stuff they saw on YouTube or maybe like stuff that happened to famous people, you know, and they want that right off the bat. And it's not that we can't offer it or anything like that. It's just I mean, some people just can't, right? Because they just don't have the budget or whatever. And I think that initial deal, like you have to be very kind of, uh, I say like easy to work with. And I think that's the key word, like or phrase is to be easy to work with,
Yeah.
right? And it's somebody who's like very cooperative, very responsive, and very helpful, like you said, right? It's kind of like if I hire you as an intern and I have to teach you everything,
Yeah.
like you're not really helping me, I'm helping you, right? So like what can you offer me, right? Or what can I offer the guy that I'm trying to work for, right? And I need to be like I need to make his life easier, right? Whether it be songwriting or anything that he's doing, I need to like make him go to the next level, right?
Yeah.
Or her like go to the next level, and that is the key thing. And I think I don't know, like from my experience, I met a lot of people that doesn't have that mindset.
Yeah.
And it's like like what like when do I get this, when do I get that? It's all about themselves. It's like when is my time coming, or why can I do this? And
That's so
you
much.
know
Yeah.
yeah. And I'm sure you guys worked in studios in Korea. It's no joke. Like when when you're the main engineer, you're the assistant. What really tripped me out was when I first went to Korea, and like when main engineer is working with an artist, we become very close, right? Or we communicate a lot. And so after we work, we go to eat, right? We go to eat lunch or dinner, and we would all go, and then the assistant's just sitting there, and I'm like, "Hey, why aren't you coming?" And he's like, "I'm not allowed to be at the presence of the master engineer, right? Eating together." And I'm like, what, right? And so you see so many people just working so hard, and and how like just to be in that position. I'm sure the guy who is the head engineer was in that same position when he was an assistant, right? So it's this kind of this whole hierarchy thing. It was crazy.
Yeah.
So like and I don't think most people right now could stomach something like that, right? They just don't have the capacity to take that kind of abuse, right?
Yeah.
But and the saying goes, like supply and demand, right? There's so many musicians, your demand is just going to be like lower, like, right? So and a lot of people don't want to hear the word like dime a dozen kind of thing, right? But unfortunately, like the market's so saturated right now. Like musicians are literally a dime a dozen, and they're coming out in droves, thousands every year from music schools.
Yeah.
All over the world, right? So it's just like to really like break through that rat race and to become somebody successful, it takes a lot of work and a lot of things that are unexplainable, right? So when you see people like that in those positions, you really have to respect it.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like when I see guys like Dave Pensado, who's like, he's working in LA and in the where the big dogs are at, and he's like the top dog, right? To be that guy, man, like you have to like you deserve respect, right? If you're in the same field, that is right.
Yeah.
So I have so much respect for guys who just broke that barrier and had any success in the music industry. Like I just have so much respect for people, like yeah.
I remember when we had our first session together. I mean, I was like, you can imagine, I was like super nervous, And I usually generally like I just don't get nervous meeting people, no matter how famous you are or how what you have done, and like it's something that I don't really get phased by. But Dave, for whatever reason, I was just so nervous to meet him. But one thing I remember I did was I remember I wanted to at least get his template perfect. And I just started looking at forums. I started looking at different threads. I started looking. I don't think YouTube was even like a big thing then, so I couldn't really look up anything that people put up. So I just like contacted people that have worked with him, and so I built this like makeshift template on Pro Tools so that everything was colored the way he wanted it, or he does in his sessions. But I wouldn't know because I've never worked with him, so I would have to kind of base this off of just reading online and from just contacting random people. So the day came when I met him, and he opened up the session and he goes, "Did I work with you before?" And I go, "No, it's our first time." And he said, "How in the world did you know my template?" And I said, "Oh, I just figured it out." And he's like, "Everything is lined up and all the colors are coordinated. But my assistant has nothing to do." And I was like, "Oh, like he doesn't have to do anything. I'm just, you don't mind, if I'm just, I just want to chill and just, hang out with you." And super gracious guy. He loves just company, and it was just like a memorable time, thinking back. But yeah, just kind of going back to how making things easier for somebody, especially when you're the one that's coming and you're trying to learn from somebody, even trying to be a fly on the wall, like when you're, with someone like Dave or with someone like you. Like, I think it's always going to be a great, benefit to, give whatever you have to be in that kind of time and space.
It's kind of like goes back to what you were saying. Like, you have to be prepared when the opportunity comes, right? Yeah, like a lot of guys, when the opportunity comes, they start like, okay, let me get into my work clothes and like figure this out, right? You know what I mean? Like, I think most people who do music are, been starting since their early teens, maybe.
Yep.
So by the time they're working in the professional field, like at the age of, I don't know, 18, 19, they're already like 5, 6 years in to like really cranking things out, right?
Right.
And if you're not in that mode or at that level, it's tough. People who are coming out of music schools, they got it together, right? They know how to do the craft.
Right.
And what may have happened is that because they were so focused on the craft, they missed out on the networking and everything else that goes with it too, right?
Right.
So it's a collection of all kinds of different things.
Yeah.
And I think probably like you, me, everybody included, like we all had our first success because of somebody else that connected us, right? Right. It wasn't us, like we were so awesome that somebody just came into our bedroom and took our song and made it a hit. Like, somebody connected those dots for us, right? And it's always about that one phone call that comes that changes your entire life. Like, I think if you look at any success story in the music industry and you look in hindsight, there's always that one guy that gave them the break, right? And so from the guy for the guy who's giving you the break, it's always this constant, like, help me help you, right? I'm gonna, like I put you in as an intern to help you.
Yeah.
So like, please, like, cooperate with me, like let me help you with this, right? And it's that easy. Like if you're already hired as an intern, somebody's trying to give you an opportunity.
Yeah.
Right. And if you blow that, it's it's more of a personality trait than anything else.
For sure.
Right. Yeah. And and that goes that's aside from talent and all that stuff. Personality traits are very like important in the work field, like to have long relationships and ongoing relationships.
Today, with so much going on with like options, like we're in a era where like you can date people online, and I've never done this, so I don't know, but like you can go on your phone and like swipe people, swipe left, swipe swipe right. I don't know what that business is about, but like you have all these options. You can order food online and and have everything just catered to you. So I think this is just definitely a different time period where those things aren't as valued. And so like me kind of being a little bit more old fashioned, I think it is important to approach things with the right attitude and understanding that you don't just get it, you don't just deserve things because you just graduated from school, or you did a couple internships here. I think it's much more than that.
Yeah, I mean, I always say like music, I think major is something, or it's one of the only majors where you go to school for like 4 or 6 years, and and there's no guarantee of a job, right? There's absolutely no guarantees of a career in the music industry, and most of the people who have succeeded in the industry never went to music schools,
Yeah.
right? So I guess it's kind of like, so a lot of people use like like Apple computers as an example, right? So you got like people like Steve Wozniak, who actually designs the computer, does the technical work, and Steve Jobs actually like like pretty much comes up with these ideas, but like there's people executing it, right? Right. So like if you're learning an instrument in college,
Yeah.
you're gonna come out and play instruments for somebody else's song. In most cases, you become a session player and things like that, right? So like, so when people study to be a session player and then wonder why they're not like Taylor Swift, is because they majored in one instrument,
Yeah.
right? So like, I think there, people have different kind of perception of what the end goal is, because I think everybody wants to be part of the music industry, but what capacity, right? Like you could be an intern, or you could just be a graphic designer for an entertainment company, or you want to be a composer or one of the composers. You want to be a producer. You want to be the main artist, or right? And there's so many different compartments of the music industry, but I think a lot of people just kind of see it as, oh yeah, I just want to be part of this whole K-pop thing. Like, there's so many things you could do that has nothing to do with the actual creative process, right?
Yep.
So, so like I think a lot of people are kind of confused, like, or maybe some of the information that we talk about pertains to being, an artist or even like a producer, right?
Yeah.
Right. And if somebody's a guitarist kind of listening in and go, oh, how do I get work in Korea as a guitar player? It's like another. It's like apples and oranges, right? It's like comparing apples and oranges. It's very different.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Jae-young, do you know that Hoban actually he had like a career in fighting MMA?
Are you serious?
Yeah. In my earlier 20s, I wanted to. I actually did Muay Thai boxing. That was my.
Wow, I had no idea.
Yeah.
I don't know. At that time, I just loved punching things. So.
It's good that you got into music.
I was actually doing music at that time. I was helping out running a studio on this. Not really on the side. That was my main job. But I remember also training 8 hours a day, as well for that too. And
Yeah, I mean, that's
that was
no
a
joke.
different time.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Wow, that's crazy. That's awesome. I always envy people who could do MMA. Crazy. I would have never guessed. Hoban.
Yeah, I have some hidden pictures on Instagram. If you
Really?
scroll back maybe about 10 years, you might be able to.
Oh, I gotta look that up.
But those were fun times, I'll tell you that. I was in the best shape of my life, and
Yeah.
I remember my fun thing to do was to run from Cape Town to Hollywood and back in less than an hour. That was like my thing.
Wow. Let me ask you a question regarding like kind of what we're talking about, but like like you're talking about like talent, right? So there's this argument of like hard work versus talent. I think talent is like kind of irreplaceable. I don't think work. I mean, if anybody doubts that, I think you just watch the movie Amadeus. Have you seen the movie Amadeus? It's about Mozart, and like there's a guy who works very hard, and this Mozart is this guy who's always partying with girls and doing crazy things and seems to never really apply himself.
Yeah.
But like when he shows up, he just kills it.
Yeah.
Right. And and if you look at like a lot of the masterpieces, like even in rock or whatever, like like Randy Rhoads, for example, like he put out his best work. He died when he was what 25 or something, right? And like Jimi Hendrix died when he was 28, and like most people work their entire lives to do what they did in those 3 year period, or like people like Yngwie Malmsteen, who started playing guitar when he was 15. And at the age of 18, he made a Rising Force album, which is like absolutely bananas, right? And 30 plus years later, people still can't replicate what he played in that album. Yeah. And he was only 18 at the time, right? So, and I guess I would be a testament to that, because I play my ass off and I could never play like that guy what he did at the age of 18.
Yeah.
Right, and it's not like I'm not working hard enough. I don't think it's that. I think a lot of people even work harder than me to play like he did, and they just can't.
Yeah.
And there's I think of course, like I think mediocre talent could be met by hard work.
Yeah.
Maybe, but like that genius level talent, you're absolutely born with it. I think, and I think like people who have it know it. It's kind of like, if you're like super athletic, right, versus somebody who's not athletic, right? Like I don't know, like shooting a basket or dunking is very easy for you. The guy could work 10 years and he still can't do it, right? To me, I don't know. Talent is it's something that like people kind of are just kind of naturally born with, and there's just like things are easy for them, right? For no apparent reason, right? Yeah, and yeah. So I think, I don't know, like hard work I think could get you to some level, but people with real talent, the bottom line is they don't have to work as hard as you. Right? It's just, that's just how it is. Yeah, I know guys who so I used to go out with like these musicians, and we'd be out like drinking till like morning, like sunlight, and they're drunk, and they're sitting writing something on a little like tissue, with a pen, and I'm like, "What are you doing?" He's like, "Oh, I have a session in the morning. I'm writing the orchestration down," and this is like in a karaoke or something. Music's blasting.
Wow.
He's writing this stuff, and I'm like, "Okay, what?" Next day, he's still hungover.
Yeah.
I go to the studio, and the string section is playing that, and I was completely like floored.
Yeah.
Right? Yeah, and I was like, "My God, like I could never do that."
Yeah.
Right? And that's talent. Kind of goes back to what I was saying about people trivializing other people's abilities, right? Oh, like that guy, I could do that with hard work. I could work overtime to get there. Sometimes you just can't, right? And that's when you really realize how great some of these people are, and you have to like like that's when you recognize like, wow, that guy is truly great, and I want to like learn from that guy.
Yeah.
Right. And that's where you learn like to really accept that, is when you realize hard work doesn't always cover for talent.
Yeah. Yeah, I always kind of say this, and I kind of gave the analogy of a treadmill, right? It's like sometimes like hard work, you can end up just being on a treadmill and being in the same place and doing a lot of work, and like a lot of action, and so it's really like, and for some people that are watching this and they realize, oh man, like maybe this is not for me, and I think it's okay to think that. I don't necessarily think that the message is always like you have to do music, but my message is always about finding something that you're obviously passionate about, but ultimately finding your purpose, because without purpose, passion is something that's always going to be replaced. Like, one season you might feel like you're passionate about something, and then the next season it might change. But if you have a purpose, then everything works around that. Whereas passion is something just about yourself, and you're just working for yourself. There's no nothing left behind afterward.
Yeah, and purpose is always like greater than yourself.
Yes.
Right. Yeah, and there's no limit to how big that purpose could be, and that's very important. Because I think a lot of times passion people confuse with their own desire to become famous. Right? Like
so well just now. That's exactly it. Yeah.
Right? Or some people even confuse the voice of God in their head as their own desire. Like right? So it's like yeah, definitely. I think like having purpose and really so when you go, what is that purpose, right? So for some people it's I feel like I was born with God gave me talent and I want to multiply it in my lifetime, right? And I want to use it to the full fullest of my abilities, right? And then for some people, oh yeah, I want to spread positivity and love and this kind of thing, or you know then you see the Grammys where everybody's just kind of like making vulgar music and getting Grammys, and then you're like, what is that? How do you make sense of it? Right?
This year
Like,
goes to ass is up, you know.
yeah. I'd like to thank my Lord and Savior Jesus for my new single WAP. Yeah. So yeah. And it's empowering women, and yeah. I mean, sometimes I go, wow, some people are given so much talent and so much opportunities, like people like would die for, right? And they use that opportunity to make absolute dog shit, right? For the community and for the people, for humanity, like, right? And yeah, I've always been about like spreading positivity, and kind of love through music, and just yeah, so much has changed, right? And I don't want to sound like some old fart, like talking about the good old days of music, but like I think it's gotten kind of extreme, like with some of the content. Like when you say purpose, I think that kind of eliminates a lot of people.
Yeah.
Because a lot of people don't have that purpose, and like I think these days, like I want to like when I leave this world, I want to leave a legacy of
Yes.
some positivity. Like I hope like my music kind of inspires some people, to think happier, like about life and things like that. But like I did like do a bunch of songs, where like when I was young, party jams, or just even like like just a lot of crazy stuff, and sometimes I go, man, at the time I didn't really think of how many people that might have influenced, right? So like like to think that a million kids listened to that song and could have possibly like thought different about things, like I don't know, like when you realize how much power that actually has, then you like, wow, like kind of it scared me, and I wanted to kind of be more responsible with that.
Yeah.
Wow. Actually, like, because I'm a believer in God, and I'm a Christian and all this stuff. And I remember I worked on an album. This is a while back, and it was a Mandarin album. It was a Chinese album, so I didn't really think about the content of it, whatever. And when the album came out, it was like it was called Atheist.
Oh, really?
And it had an upside down cross.
Wow.
And the whole thing, and it's basically like, oh, like, why should I believe in God, and da da da. I don't believe any of it. Kind of a content.
Yeah.
And after, like, when the album came out, I was like, oh man, like, and the crazy thing was that album actually won awards and things like that. It got really big, and I was enjoying the success of the album, and it didn't really hit me till like years later that, oh man, that had a huge impact on society, like, and I was part of that, and I think that was sort of my turning point. Like I was really kind of watching out for what I put out, like, in terms of content, and I don't want to like be a negative influence in the world and things like that. So
it would have been a twist though if you go up to the award show and say, I want to thank my Lord and Savior for this.
Yeah. For this album, Atheist.
Atheist.
My Grammy.
Yeah.
Yeah. I think it was actually not. Yeah, I think it was either one. I think it won the Golden Melody Awards. I think that album, maybe. Yeah. But it was a big successful album. But yeah, I think I have it somewhere. It's Now that I have kids and things like that, I go like, man, now I understand. Like like people like have kids, and they I forget who it was. It was like Ice Cube or one of these guys who said like they want to make albums that they could play for their kids now.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
And I was like, that's like the softest thing I ever heard somebody say. Right? Like, how can you say that, right? Right? And then after I had my kids, I'm like, yo, I can't go on that crazy stuff,
I think something to take away here, guys, is failure is part of the process. Learn to embrace the suck, but most of all, don't let quitting be an option. Hope you guys enjoyed this episode. Yeah, don't quit.
Don't quit.
And Hope to see you guys next time. And please smash that like button. See you guys.
Yeah.